Let me be the first to welcome you to the Serah Strong era. Thanks for making the Hoops Cap part of your daily routine. Before we dive into today's show, I want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you. We appreciate all of your support. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. Download it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world. Well, let me talk to you about Serah Strong. In the pantheon of high school basketball greats, few stories begin as definitively as Serah Strong's, and even fewer live up to the early praise. But for anyone who witnessed her time at Grace Christian School, there was never a doubt this wasn't just a special player. This was a generational talent, maybe even the greatest to ever do it. It was February 2024 when the Sanford Herald ran its headline, Amazing Grace. That night, Serah Strong, her teammates at Grace Christian wrapped up their final act together with an 82-33 annihilation of High Point Christian. It was a perfect 30-0 season to win their third straight NCAA state title. This one at the 3A level, which is, I guess, the highest in North Carolina. Strong dropped 30 in her finale. She finished her career with a staggering 91-4 record, 80 of those wins by double digits, and titles at 3 different classification levels. The run ended on a 41-game win streak. And if you remember, I heard about this before she even got to UConn from my barber, who is likely going to start losing business as my hair starts getting thinner. But the beauty of this is knowing about Serah coming into this season, I didn't really fully understand how great she is and how great she can become. Her coach is quoted as saying, she could be the greatest player ever because she's a complete player. And that's not hyperbole. It could end up being a prophecy. Strong was never just a scorer. She was essentially the system, the stabilizer, the spark, the superstar who didn't need to be the star. And if you know anything about her and you've seen her in these media availabilities, you can see that. She did anything she needed for her coach, whether it was the need to pass because there was too much focus on her, the ability to rebound, which we saw throughout the season, defend. She did that too. Her joy is infectious. All of that has led to dominant stat lines. Grace Christian wasn't just winning. They were redefining what high school excellence in the Raleigh-Durham area looked like. And it all orbited around Serah Strong. And then obviously came Stores. You could argue that Serah Strong arrived at UConn as the most polished freshman Gino Auriemma has ever coached. And yes, that's saying something when you consider names like Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, and Paige Beckers. But from her first practice, Serah looks like she belonged. In fact, I remember Gino saying, some of the rust that she had was because there isn't a lot of organized practice, but when we get into the games, we know what we have. And as the season unfolded, she made it clear she didn't just belong. She was ready to lead at times. And she does so in such an effortless fashion. In a year when Cooper Flagg on the men's side was the media darling, Strong was the silent storm. One of them won a national championship. One of them lost in the Final Four. And by the time the tournament rolled around, she wasn't just the best freshman in women's college basketball. She was the best freshman in college basketball, period. She might have been the best player on the court at times, even with Paige dropping 30 and 40 points and having a magical run. I would argue she was the most impactful player on this team. Think about what she did. She capped it with one of the greatest tournament runs in the history of the sport. First freshman ever with 20 points and 15 rebounds in a national title game. First UConn freshman with 3 straight 20-point games in an NCAA tournament. Most points scored by a freshman in a single NCAA tournament. The engine behind UConn's 82-59 national championship win over South Carolina, in which she posted a monster stat line of 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 block shots. When Gino Auriemma needed an answer. Serah Strong had anything that she wanted in this game. No panic, no ego, just poise and power. She's a prodigy. And if you know anything about her background, it's a legacy in the making for years. She was born into hoops royalty. Her mother, Allison Feaster, a WNBA veteran and Celtics executive. Her father, Danny Strong, a college and pro player himself. Serah was built for this. But as her parents will tell you, it's not just the bloodlines. It's the values, it's the faith, it's the work. She knew this was where she wanted to be from the 6th grade, Danny said. It was in her heart. And according to him, she's staying all 3 years. There's no transfer portal stuff. He said, oh, yeah, definitely. He said after the title game, we raised her to be locked in and a loyal person. Once you start something, you finish it. In an era of NIL, transfer portals, one done dreams on the NBA, on the NBA side, Serah Strong is choosing something rare. Legacy over limelight, maybe even more money other places. She's not chasing WNBA comparisons or the next big endorsement. She's chasing banners at UConn. Growth. The relationships that she's created inside the building at stores. The kind you build over years, not months. Gino Auriemma knows what he's looking at. When I saw Serah play in the 10th grade, he said, I couldn't think of a women's player to compare her to. I said, she's Charles Barkley. Great hands, great feet, knows the game, plays with passion. She's got it all. So I know some of you will look at this and go, slow down. I don't see how. I just don't. I don't look at things with maybe it's the lack of patience in me. Maybe it's the delusions of grandeur. Maybe it's just calling it for what it is. Because the next chapter at UConn belongs to Serah Strong. And she joins a lineage of legends, Paige, Stewie, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore. She's not really waiting in line on that. She's carving out her own path alongside them. She's going to be on that wall that you see inside of the practice facility. She may end up getting her jersey retired. She's definitely going to be on the Ring of Honor. She's already the Big East Freshman of the Year, second-team All-American, and a national champion. And arguably, I think you could have. I have no problem with Azzi Fudd winning the most outstanding player, but I think Serah should have won it. Averaging 16 points, nearly 10 rebounds, stuffing every column on the stat sheet. She's redefining what the greatest potential player in the sport can be, while also reminding fans what UConn basketball has always stood for: team-first excellence, fearlessness, and that relentless pursuit of perfection. Paige Bueckers had an amazing year. I am so happy that she went out on top. Azzi Fudd, same thing. Those two girls are the heart and potentially the voice of UConn. Serah Strong, she's the future, man. And in the Strong era, that future looks awfully bright. 3 years left. Multiple titles in reach. Potentially matching Breanna Stewart's 4 straight titles. Players of the Year campaigns are on the horizon. And barring injury, knock on wood, there's an unwavering sense of purpose rooted in her faith, family, and loyalty to the program. This isn't just a chapter in UConn history. This is the beginning of a legend. The Serah Strong era has arrived, and it's only just getting started. All right, welcome back to the Hoops Pod. Hoopscat Pod. Serah Strong is legit, and she's absolutely ready to dominate the future of what UConn is about. Every so often, a player story, however, is so rich in resiliency and so beautifully layered with pain and persistence that it demands more than just a box score or a mention. It demands a chapter, and that's what Azzi Fudd has earned. So we may be in the Serah Strong era, but Azzi Fudd is returning, and she's such a light on this sport. Listening to her talk about how grown men and young girls alike follow her and really kind of aspire for her to be great. And it's everything that she's endured off the court that on the court that is one of the reasons why she's so relatable. So If Serah Strong represents the arrival of a new era in UConn basketball, Azzi Fudd embodies the survival that made this era possible at all. A year ago, Azzi Fudd woke before sunrise, not to shoot, not to lift, but to heal, as the NCAA tournament played on without her. Azzi was in a hotel transforming makeshift rehab sessions into sacred rituals. There was no cameras, no crowd noise, no social media, just her rebuilding her knee again, and betting everything on the idea that one day she'd be back on that stage. The stage that turned into Tampa, Florida, a scene of the Final Four. 1 year later, the stage belonged to her. Azzi didn't just return to the court. She returned to the center of it all, dropping 24 points, 5 rebounds, and taking away 3 steals to lead UConn to its 12th national championship. For her effort, she was named the Final Four's most outstanding player, a title like everything else she's earned. Wasn't handed to her, it was claimed. I could argue that Serah Strong might have been more impactful, but it's kind of like the same argument for UConn players on the men's side. Donovan Clingan might have been more impactful, but Tristan Newton was named most outstanding player in 23, and then last year in 24. God, was it Tristan Newton again? I believe it was. Might have been. I'm blanking on that. Yeah, it was Tristan. Sudogo was 23 last year. It was Tristan. But anyway, back to Azzi. She was quoted as, "I was trying to have fun with it," she said, with a smile of someone who's fought through years of knowing if this moment would really ever come, like not knowing, really, right? It had been a long time coming, and I'm just so proud of what she's accomplished. The purest jump shot in women's basketball wasn't born by accident. It was built over years of catching passes from her parents. They even showed a picture of Azzi when she was like 3 years old, and she had the saran wrap that was like wrapped around so she could work on her left hand. It's pretty incredible. Her parents, Katie and Tim in Virginia, Katie, a former standout at NC State and Georgetown, adjusted. Both of them played basketball. Obviously, one at NC State, one at Georgetown. They adjusted Azzi's release point in elementary school, raising it several inches higher to build a true jump shot. And once it clicked, it never left her. To this day, Azzi still spins the ball in her hands to align the seams before she fires. She's not just shooting; she's really kind of almost like sculpting. And like a sculptor, every moment has a purpose. Her hand, her guide hand stays quiet. Her wrist doesn't snap; it flows. Steph Curry himself has called it prettier than mine. But here's the truth: a pretty shot means nothing if you're not standing on the floor to take it. Fudd's college career has been a medical journey in motion. 2 ACL tears, a meniscus strain, a foot injury, a mountain of what ifs. There were moments where the climb looked too steep, when the rehab felt endless, when the faith wore thin, but she never quit. Not in high school when she strapped weights to her ankles on top of her dresser. Not last March when she worked solo in silence so she could cheer from the bench. When UConn tipped off against USC in the Elite Eight, Fudd missed her first 9 shots. Gino Auriemma had drawn up the first play of the fourth quarter just for her. An elevator screen. He hesitated for a split second. So did she. For a second, I was like, why? She admitted. But the play ran, the screen sealed, the ball came, and Azzi Fudd switched it. That was the moment that was the moment. The one that flipped the switch. She scored again and again, not just basket, but true belief in herself. Fudd had long been known as a sniper, but this season she kind of morphed into something even more valuable. She was a two-way force, something that T. Baker and I have talked about countless times about, yes, is she one of the most reliable shooters on this team? 1,000%. But she's become this go-to defender. She would pick the pocket of Malaysia Fulwiley twice, using that same precision that defined her jumper to refine her footwork and discipline on the other end. By end of March this year, she was averaging 2.5 steals per game, including a season-high 6 in the first round. And in the national championship, she kind of made Malaysia Fulwiley look really silly. And she was the primary defender that basically made her go 2 for 10. This Malaysia, same Malaysia Fulwiley that has changed full games based off of her intensity, her athleticism. It meant nothing to Azzi. She played the complete game, the one UConn's always believed she had in her. Fudd wears 2 bracelets. One says purpose, the other says resilient. Fitting, because those aren't just traits, that's her foundation. Over the past 4 years, she's played in only 76 games. She's missed more games than she suited up for. But when the moment came, she didn't just play, she shined. It's been 728 days since her last NCAA tournament. It had been 728 days since her last NCAA tournament appearance. But on the biggest stage, she played like she never left. Inside, outside, off the dribble, off the catch. This is how it all began. And for her to win this most outstanding player has to feel like such a validation for what this all has been for. Brianna Short was quoted as saying she's resilient. The adversity she's gone through has only made her stronger. So when Azzi finally cut down a piece of the net, as emotions ran high, the reclamation of a dream that had once felt so far away, she didn't drop 40 points. She didn't, go crazy with this. She played UConn basketball. And for a player whose shot has always been poetry in motion, this performance was her most powerful yet. The Azzi Fudd chapter, once paused multiple times by injury, is back in full motion. She's coming back into stores for another season, healthy, whole, and hungrier than ever. And if Sunday was a preview, the sequel might even be better than the original. We'll return. All right, welcome back to the Hoops Cap Pod. Last segment of the program, talk about the Serah Strong era and Azzi's just incredible return to prominence and the most outstanding player of the Final Four. But as the confetti settles and championship nets hang on trophy cases, and the UConn staff is likely already turning the page if they haven't already. Not away from the celebration, but toward continuity, right? Because in stores, the standard isn't just one title, it's sustained greatness. And to keep climbing, UConn knows exactly what it needs, and it needs reinforcements. Despite a dominant tournament run, the Huskies front court remained kind of their biggest question mark all season. And it's hard to really nitpick after just winning a national championship, but it really was probably the reason why they didn't go undefeated. And it sounds wild. But I'll tell you, there's one missing piece that would make this team likely untouchable next year. I think even if we don't get this individual, they're still going to be preseason number one, and likely it's hard to say that they're going to go undefeated, because we've talked about this on the show a bunch, that there's a bunch of good teams still left. But man, if they get Serah Williams, who is the only player that they've been aligned to in the portal, she is a 6'4" forward transferring from Wisconsin with 1 year eligibility. So she's just coming in for like her last ride, so to speak, right? Brooklyn-born, Toronto Rays standout, didn't just thrive in the Big Ten. She dominated it. The only thing that she's missing is being a part of a team that is as good as she is. She averaged 19 points and 10 rebounds a game, 9.8 rebounds, in 2.5 blocks. She's the defensive player in the year in the Big Ten, all Big Ten first team, all defensive team honors. She's got over 1,400 career points, almost 800 rebounds, and 36 career double-doubles in 91 games. On paper, she's an amazing fit. She's got size. She has the experience that could help with, think about what UConn did with a small lineup of Serah Strong at the 5. I know Gino loves to do that, but if you keep Serah at the 4 for pretty much the entire year, and just she is going to have a monster year. And if you have a girl like Serah who can kind of parlay that with her, and then you have Azzi on the outside, God, man, like this team would be box office, like literally appointment television. She is, even if she doesn't recreate the 19-10 that she did at Wisconsin, if she gave you 12-10 every game, this team wouldn't lose a game all year. And it would likely be exactly what they did in the NCAA tournament for the entire season. So what would this team look like if she comes, and who's coming behind her, right? Strong is back. That's the foundation. Azzi, redshirt sophomore Ice Brady is expected to return. Is her role going to be more evolved? Is she going to look at this and go, well, if they bring in Serah, I might have to go someplace else? I don't know yet. Ayanna Patterson, after missing 2 full seasons, faces kind of a crossroads here. Will she stay? Will she end up going in the portal? We'll find out soon. It's just unclear. Janelle Elfie remains, obviously was a huge part down the stretch. She started to really come into her own. 6'5" redshirt freshman class, soft touch, timing at times. She's still learning how to be, physical, the speed of the game. But man, did she look good in the Final Four. So her being back is going to be huge. UConn also welcomes a trio of new recruits to campus this year. And do not be worried about the lack of McDonald's All-Americans in this class, because Blanca Quinones on her own, if that was the only player that they brought in, is going to feed families, as people say online. Kellis Fisher is a KK Arnold clone. She's incredible. And Gabby Malou-Mamel, who is the biggest raw project of all of them, might be cutting down some nets on her own down the stretch, because as she learns the game, as she gets a little more polished on the offensive side, she's an unbelievable rim runner right now. She's a great defensive player right out of the gates. She's a full 6'6", maybe touching 6'7". She's developmental, but she is going to give them some depth. Spell Jana, spell Ice to come in and get a few minutes. Listen, I don't think anybody's asking them to come in and be Sarah Strong next year, but I would love to see a lineup with Blanca Quinones and Sarah Strong in it together. It's just going to be incredible. Oh, yeah, and I forgot. You get Azzi Fudd back. You get KK Arnold. You get Ashlyn Shade, Morgan Shelley, Ali Zabel, Carolyn Ducharme. I think she's coming back. You never know. Maybe she changes her mind, but I'm pretty sure she's going to play. Just have an incredibly loaded roster. And what's interesting is you have KK and Kellis kind of manning more of the point next year. You'll probably see a little bit of Serah running a little point forward next year and doing a little bit of high ball screen, and maybe a little pick and roll with Jana, maybe a little pick and roll with Azzi, kind of reversing it. I think Gino has to be even more excited about next year, because he has the depth and he's got returners that he trusts. And it's pretty much essentially what he's been saying for a few years is, the reason why we're so good is because we have Paige Beckers and you don't. Well, he can start saying that about Sarah Strong, and he can start saying that about Azzi Fudd. And maybe he starts saying that as we see Blanca Quinones come into her own as a freshman. So that's our show. This has been another episode of the Hoops Cap. Remember, it's not about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way that it can't be done any better. Congratulations again to the UConn women. 12th national title. Amazing. And just keep it going. Go Huskies.